I'm here to say that was...
There is no warning, but we know now the gunman just feet away.
Live television promises truth in real time, but it also carries risk. When events spiral out of control, cameras do not blink.
Here it comes!
These moments shocked viewers not because they were planned, but because they unfolded without filters, delays, or safeguards, exposing how quickly live broadcasts can turn irreversible. Carl Winde, Death on the Wire. Daytime television in the late 1970s was built on comfort. Viewers expected calm voices and harmless entertainment. But on March 22, 1978, that expectation was destroyed. A live broadcast from San Juan, Puerto Rico showed a man standing high above the ground on a thin wire stretched between two towers of the Condado Plaza Hotel. His name was Carl Winde. He was 73 years old and known around the world as a master of the tightrope. Winde had spent most of his life walking wires without nets or safety gear. He trusted balance and experience. He had performed this act countless times. To him it was routine. To viewers it was thrilling but familiar. No one expected danger. The cameras treated the moment casually. Broadcasters spoke calmly. There was no sense of urgency. As Winde stepped onto the wire, everything appeared normal. He moved slowly and confidently. His posture was steady. The crowd below watched quietly. Television audiences followed every step without fear. The act was meant to end as it always had, with applause and relief. But it ended differently. There was no dramatic buildup. There was no warning. In less than a second, something went wrong. Winde lost balance. It may have been a small movement or a sudden shift in wind. Whatever the cause, it was final. Carl Winde slipped and fell from the wire. The camera stayed on him. The broadcast did not cut away. Viewers watched a real man fall to his death. There was no music and no commentary, just silence and shock. In studios across the country, producers scrambled. They tried to end the feed. They failed to act in time. The most disturbing part was how fast entertainment became tragedy. One moment, viewers were relaxed. The next, they were witnesses to a death. Many people watching were children or families who had no warning and no chance to look away. After the broadcast, the network faced intense criticism. Viewers reported lasting trauma. Questions were raised about safety and responsibility. But there were no answers that could undo what had been shown. The footage is rarely aired today. It remains locked away. But the memory remains strong. It stands as one of the earliest examples of live television crossing into irreversible harm. The Bear on Russian television. Live television often relies on shock to hold attention. In 2016, a Russian talk show titled Pro Lyubov decided to push that idea too far. Producers brought a live bear into the studio. The bear was named Bona. She was large, powerful, and wild. A trainer stood nearby and gave strict instructions. The bear was restrained and muzzled, but she was still an animal driven by instinct. Bright lights, loud sounds, and applause filled the studio. None of this was natural for her. The presenter approached the bear during the live broadcast. The trainer warned her not to touch the animal, but the warning was ignored. The presenter reached out and crossed a boundary that should never have been crossed. Bona reacted instantly. She lunged toward the presenter. Chaos filled the studio. The camera kept rolling. Screams echoed. The audience froze in shock. For several seconds, no one acted. The trainer rushed in shouting that he had warned them. Security intervened. The presenter was pulled away. The bear was restrained again. The presenter survived. She suffered bruises and minor injuries. The physical damage healed, but the psychological impact lasted longer. Millions of viewers watched the moment live. What they saw was not a trained act gone wrong. It was a wild animal responding naturally to stress and fear. The bear was not at fault. The humans created the danger. The incident sparked outrage. Animal rights groups criticized the show. Viewers questioned why producers thought this was acceptable. The pursuit of ratings had overridden basic safety. The Phoenix helicopter collision. On July 27, 2007, viewers in Phoenix, Arizona tuned in to watch a live police chase. It was familiar breaking news. 2 helicopters followed the suspect from above. Chopper 15 and News Chopper 3 flew close together while filming and reporting. Each helicopter carried a pilot and a photographer. All were experienced professionals. They had covered countless chases, but live reporting demanded constant attention. They filmed, coordinated, and flew at the same time. Then at 12:46 p.m., the helicopters suddenly collided. There was no explosion. There was no warning. The live feed glitched. Images vanished. Debris fell from the sky. Inside newsrooms, panic set in. Producers realized what had happened before viewers ever did. 4 crew members were killed instantly. The chase below continued briefly until reality set in. What had been breaking news became a tragedy. Investigations later showed that the pilots were overwhelmed. They were flying dangerously close while managing cameras and communication. They never saw each other in time. This was not reckless behavior by individuals. It was an industry failure. Live television had pushed its crews beyond safe limits. 4 lives ended while cameras rolled. Journalism changed after that day. The joke that paralyzed a man. Japanese television has long been associated with extreme humor and physical challenges. Viewers expected exaggerated pain and awkward moments that ended in laughter. On June 14, 2008, a game show called Jaga Jaga Tengoku prepared a segment that producers believed would fit that tradition. The plan was simple. Contestants would dive into a mud pit for comedy. It looked harmless and familiar. Tetsushi Yanagita was the host of the show. He was an experienced, confident, and well-known for physical humor. During the segment, he decided to take part himself. The decision was spontaneous and encouraged by the playful atmosphere in the studio. Crew members laughed. The audience applauded. No one stopped to question safety. The mud pit was positioned below a raised platform. From above, it appeared deep and soft. No clear measurements were taken. No one checked what lay beneath the surface. Assumptions replaced caution. Yanagita climbed onto the platform and dove head first. The moment his body entered the mud, something was wrong. The pit was shallow. Beneath the mud was solid ground. His neck struck the bottom with full force. The injury was immediate and severe. He stopped moving. The cameras continued to roll. Crew members laughed. They believed this was part of the act. The audience reacted the same way. Yanagita remained motionless. Seconds passed. Someone pushed him further into the mud, thinking he was pretending. Those seconds mattered. When the truth became clear, panic replaced laughter. Medical staff were called. Yanagita was taken to the hospital. He survived, but the damage was permanent. He was left paralyzed from the neck down. Millions of viewers had watched the moment live without realizing what they were seeing. The footage later shocked the country. The most disturbing detail was not only the injury but the delay. A real emergency had been mistaken for entertainment. The show faced intense criticism. Viewers demanded accountability. Questions were asked about safety planning and responsibility. How could a simple joke destroy a life? The answer was found in complacency and pressure to entertain. Yanagita's life changed completely. He required constant care. His career ended instantly. The footage became infamous and is rarely aired today. This incident remains a warning. Live television offers no buffer between comedy and catastrophe. When assumptions replace awareness, the consequences are irreversible. Nasubi entertainment as psychological torture. In 1998, Japanese television launched a program that would later be seen as deeply disturbing. Comedian Tomoki Hamatsu, known as Nasubi, believed he was accepting an unusual role that could bring attention to his career. He did not understand the true conditions. He did not know his suffering would become the show. Nasubi was placed alone in a small apartment. He had no clothes, no money, and no contact with the outside world. Cameras recorded him at all times. He was told he could only survive using prizes won from mail and contests. Food, shelter, and comfort depended entirely on chance. He was not told how long the experiment would last. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Nasubi grew thinner and weaker. He spoke to himself to stay sane. He celebrated small victories like winning rice or soup. When he lost, he went hungry. Millions of viewers watched daily. The show became extremely popular. Audiences laughed at his confusion and praised his endurance. His pain became entertainment. After many months, Nasubi finally reached the target goal. He believed it was over. He cried with relief. Producers blindfolded him and moved him. He expected freedom. Instead, he was placed in another apartment and told to start again. The realization broke him. His mental health declined further. Isolation continued. Cameras never stopped. After 15 months, the experiment ended. Walls were removed, revealing cameras, lights, and a live audience. Nasubi stood exposed, confused, and exhausted. He learned the entire country had been watching. He later said it was not entertainment. Though he gained fame, his health suffered. He was underweight, traumatized, and emotionally damaged. The show sparked debate about consent ethics and exploitation. Nasubi's story remains one of the darkest examples of reality television. There was no physical violence. The harm was psychological and lasting. Live television turned isolation into spectacle and proved that cruelty does not need force to be real. Hillsborough Disaster Broadcast Live. On April 15, 1989, Hillsborough Stadium hosted an FA Cup semi-final match. Thousands of Liverpool supporters traveled to attend. The event was meant to be a celebration of football, but the stadium was outdated. Crowd control plans were poorly designed. Police underestimated attendance and failed to manage entry points effectively. Congestion built outside the ground. To relieve pressure, officers opened an exit gate. Thousands of fans were directed into already full sections. Those sections were enclosed by fencing. There was nowhere to escape. The crowd became dangerously compressed. People were trapped. Breathing became impossible for many. Panic spread, but movement was restricted. Television cameras captured confusion. Viewers saw fans climbing fences and assumed disorder. They did not understand they were watching a mass casualty event unfold live. 97 people lost their lives. Hundreds were injured. In the immediate aftermath, blame was placed on fans. Media reports repeated false claims. Families fought for decades to uncover the truth. Investigations later revealed systemic failures. Poor planning and police decisions caused the disaster. Supporters were not responsible. The live broadcast showed the event but failed to explain it. Visibility did not equal understanding. By the time the truth emerged, lives were already lost. Hillsborough changed stadium safety forever. Standing terraces were removed. Crowd control standards improved. These changes came too late. The disaster remains a reminder that live television can document tragedy without preventing it. The Jenny Jones murder. In March 1995, daytime television crossed a line that could not be undone. The Jenny Jones Show aired a segment built on shock and humiliation. Guests were encouraged to reveal secret romantic feelings in front of an audience. Scott Amador was invited to participate. He was guided by producers to confess feelings for Jonathan Schmitz. The confession was made on camera in front of a crowd. Schmitz appeared embarrassed and distressed. The show continued filming. Warning signs were ignored. The episode aired without concern for consequences. 3 days later, Amador was shot and killed by Schmitz. The murder shocked the nation. Questions immediately followed. Did the show play a role? Could it have been prevented? The case went to court. The show was not found legally responsible. The moral debate continued. Many viewers reconsidered talk show culture. Entertainment had used real emotions without protection. Humiliation had become content. The Jenny Jones case became a turning point. Some producers began screening guests more carefully. Others continued chasing shock value. This story remains a warning. Live television can amplify emotions without understanding the damage. When humiliation becomes entertainment, the cost can be permanent. The Fox News police chase that went too far. On September 28, 2012, a Fox News helicopter followed what first appeared to be a familiar story, a police chase unfolding live over Arizona. Viewers had seen these before: a stolen vehicle, patrol cars keeping their distance, a suspect refusing to stop. The broadcast began as routine breaking news, the kind that often fills long stretches of live television. Police identified the suspect as Jordan Romero, who was believed to have carjacked a man earlier that day. As the chase continued, the tone shifted. Officers reported that Romero had fired toward police vehicles. Because of the risk, they pulled back and waited for backup. The chase slowed, but the danger increased. From the air, the helicopter captured everything. On the ground, police prepared for a situation that was no longer predictable. Inside the studio, the anchors grew uneasy. Their voices changed. They stopped speculating and started hesitating. They knew they were live. They also knew there was no delay long enough to protect viewers if something went wrong. Still, the feed stayed on. Romero drove into a remote desert area and suddenly stopped. There were no buildings, no traffic, no distractions, just open land and silence. He stepped out of the vehicle alone. No police officers were visible nearby. The helicopter camera stayed tight on him. The anchors tried to fill the silence, clearly unsure what they were allowed to say or do. Seconds passed, then more seconds. Nothing happened. That waiting became unbearable. The sense that something irreversible was about to occur hung over the broadcast. The anchor finally reacted, urgently ordering the feed to be cut. The screen switched away mid-sentence, but it was too late. What happened next was not shown again on the network, but it had already been seen by hundreds of thousands of viewers watching live. Many were at home with their families. Some were children. Others were alone, unprepared for what they had just witnessed. There was no warning, no content notice, no chance to look away. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Viewers flooded the network with complaints. Media critics called it a failure of judgment. Journalists questioned how a live broadcast with no meaningful delay could continue once the danger was obvious. The incident spread quickly across other news outlets and social media. Later that day, the Fox News anchor addressed the audience directly. He apologized, calling the broadcast unacceptable and wrong. He admitted that the network had failed to protect its viewers. The apology was brief, but the damage could not be undone. Romero's family later filed a lawsuit, arguing that the broadcast caused deep emotional harm and should never have aired. The case was ultimately dismissed on First Amendment grounds. Legally, the network was protected. Morally, many felt it was not. Jimmy Savile and the horror hidden in plain sight. For decades, Jimmy Savile was everywhere on British television. He hosted hit shows, raised millions for charity, and presented himself as a strange but harmless entertainer. His appearance was loud. His behavior was unusual. His influence was enormous. To the public, he seemed untouchable. On shows like Jim'll Fix It, Savile interacted with children constantly. These moments were broadcast live or recorded with minimal oversight. Viewers laughed at his jokes and ignored the discomfort in his words and actions. When he made comments that crossed boundaries or behaved in ways that felt wrong, it was brushed aside as eccentricity. Behind the scenes, concerns existed. People noticed. Staff members talked quietly. Parents complained. Reports were made to institutions, including the BBC and police. Nothing happened. Savile's fame acted as a shield. He was trusted, celebrated, and protected by his reputation and connections. Live television played a key role in this protection. His behavior happened in public, yet no one stopped it. Because it was on TV, it became normalized. If it aired, people assumed it must be acceptable. The medium itself became a defense. Savile continued appearing on television for years. He visited hospitals, schools, and care homes. He received awards and honors. The warnings remained visible, yet ignored. The power imbalance was total. Victims were young, vulnerable, and unheard. Savile was famous, wealthy, and believed. Everything changed after his death in 2011. In 2012, an investigative documentary aired that exposed allegations of abuse on a massive scale. Victims came forward in large numbers. Their stories shared patterns that could no longer be dismissed. Many described incidents that occurred on BBC property or during TV-related events. Investigations confirmed what had been hidden for decades. Savile had abused hundreds of victims over many years. Institutions failed repeatedly to act. Warnings were ignored. Reports were buried. His public image had protected him. The realization was horrifying. Some of the signs had been broadcast live into people's homes. The danger was visible, but familiarity had made it invisible. Live TV had not exposed the truth. It had helped hide it. The case forced major changes in British media. Safeguarding rules were rewritten. Internal reviews exposed deep failures. Trust in public broadcasters was shaken. The idea that live television was inherently safe or honest was destroyed. A morning news segment turned into a crime scene. On August 26, 2015, a local morning news show in Virginia went live from a shopping plaza. Reporter Allison Parker and cameraman Adam Ward were covering a light story about tourism. The interview was calm. The tone was friendly. Nothing suggested danger. Then everything changed. Without warning, loud sounds interrupted the broadcast. The camera shook. The screen cut away within seconds. Viewers knew something was wrong even before details emerged. Within minutes, it was confirmed that Parker and Ward had been attacked while live on air. They did not survive. The station's staff was thrown into shock. Co-workers watched the feed cut out and had no idea what had just happened. Police rushed to the scene. The shopping plaza was locked down. A normal workday turned into a crime scene in moments. The attacker was soon identified as a former employee of the same station. He had been fired 2 years earlier. Investigators uncovered a long history of anger, workplace conflicts, and personal grievances. He blamed others for his failures and believed he had been wronged. After fleeing the scene, he posted messages online and released his own video of the attack. This forced the public to confront the event again, through material the media struggled to contain. Platforms scrambled to remove the footage, but copies spread quickly. Authorities launched a massive search. Hours later, the suspect was located after a crash. He was later found dead. The focus then shifted fully to the victims and their families. Newsrooms across the country reevaluated safety. Field reporting protocols were rewritten. Live shots were reconsidered. The assumption that a public space was safe simply because it was familiar no longer held. For viewers, the shock was lasting. A routine broadcast had become deadly in seconds. There was no warning, no buildup, and no way to prevent it once it began. The deaths of Parker and Ward remain one of the most disturbing moments in modern broadcast history. It proved that live TV offers no protection, no delay, and no second chances. The Bradford City Stadium fire, when celebration turned to inferno. On May 11, 1985, Valley Parade Stadium in Bradford was filled with celebration. Bradford City was playing Lincoln City in the final match of the season. The team had already secured promotion, and the atmosphere was relaxed and happy. Families filled the stands. Children sat beside their parents. Longtime supporters came to mark what felt like a joyful milestone. No one inside the stadium believed they were in danger. The stadium itself was old and fragile. Much of the main stand was built from wood. Underneath the seating, years of trash had been collected. Paper, food wrappers, dust, and debris had been ignored for decades. Fire safety warnings had been raised many times. Reports described the stand as a serious hazard. Those warnings were dismissed or delayed. Nothing was done. During the match, a small fire started beneath the seats. It is believed a dropped cigarette ignited the trash below. At first, the fire appeared minor. Television cameras captured light smoke rising. Spectators noticed it and pointed. Some laughed. Others assumed it would be handled quickly. Fires had started before and been put out. Within seconds, everything changed. The fire spread with terrifying speed. The wooden structure caught instantly. Wind pushed the flames forward. In less than 5 minutes, the entire stand was burning. Smoke thickened, the heat intensified. Panic spread through the crowd as people realized the fire was out of control. Escape became impossible for many. Some exits were locked, others were blocked by flames. People tried to climb over seats, some fell, others were trapped by smoke. The television broadcast captured fans running onto the pitch to escape. Commentators stopped speaking normally, their voices cracked as they realized the scale of the disaster. Firefighters arrived quickly, but the fire had already consumed the stand. The roof collapsed, entire sections were destroyed. The stand became a blackened shell in minutes. The speed of destruction shocked everyone watching. Viewers at home watched a football match turn into a mass disaster in real time. Cameras did not cut away fast enough. What began as routine sports coverage became one of the most horrifying live broadcasts in history. 56 people lost their lives. Hundreds were injured. Survivors described confusion, fear, and disbelief. Many said they did not understand how something so ordinary could become deadly so fast. The aftermath changed football forever. Safety laws were rewritten. Wooden stands were removed across the country. Smoking was banned in stadium seating areas. These changes saved lives later, but they came too late for those who died. Owen Hart, the fall that should never have happened. On May 23, 1999, a wrestling pay-per-view event was broadcast live to millions of viewers. Fans expected entertainment, drama, and scripted action. Wrestling was seen as controlled and rehearsed. The danger was meant to be pretend. That night proved otherwise. Owen Hart was performing under the character known as the Blue Blazer. He was respected by fellow wrestlers and loved by fans. His role that night involved a dramatic entrance from above the ring. The idea was simple. He would descend from the ceiling, land safely, and play the moment for laughs. Behind the scenes, the setup was rushed. A quick release mechanism was used to detach him from the harness at the right moment. It was not designed for that environment. It was more suited to sailing equipment than live performance. Hart was not fully informed about the risk. He trusted the system. As he was being lowered, the release mechanism disengaged early. There was no warning, no chance to react. He fell from a height that guaranteed severe injury. The broadcast cut away almost immediately. Viewers were confused. Some thought it was part of the show. Others sensed something was wrong. Commentators returned later with shaken voices and confirmed the incident was real. Inside the arena, silence replaced excitement. Medics rushed to the ring. Efforts were made to save him. They failed. Owen Hart died that night. He was 34 years old. What followed shocked many fans. The event continued. Matches were held in the same ring. Performers wrestled while knowing a colleague had just died there. Viewers at home struggled to understand how the show could go on. Owen Hart family later took legal action. A settlement was reached. His widow created the Owen Hart Foundation to honor his memory and support charitable causes. She refused to allow his death to be used in promotional material. The footage of the fall has never been released. It is believed to be locked away permanently. That absence makes the event more disturbing. People know what happened without seeing it. That knowledge alone is enough. The Lauren Giddings interview, when the camera captured a killer. In June 2011, law student Lauren Giddings disappeared from her apartment complex. She was well-liked and responsible. Her sudden absence alarmed friends and neighbors. Local news crews arrived quickly to cover the story. Reporters began interviewing residents. One of them was Stephen McDaniel. He lived nearby. On camera, he appeared calm but nervous. He spoke about Lauren kindly. He described her as friendly and thoughtful. He said he was worried. Then the reporter mentioned that human remains had been found nearby. At that moment, the broadcast captured something chilling. McDaniel froze. His face changed. His body stiffened. He asked to sit down. His breathing became shallow. The shift was immediate and visible. At the time, viewers thought they were seeing shock. Later, investigators realized the truth. The camera had captured the moment a killer realized his crime was being uncovered. McDaniel had been obsessed with Lauren. Evidence later showed he secretly watched her, recorded her movements, and used a master key to enter her apartment. He murdered her and tried to hide the evidence. The interview raised suspicion. Police attention intensified. A search of his apartment uncovered proof of the crime. He was arrested and later convicted. He received a life sentence. The realization that someone capable of murder can appear calm and cooperative on camera changed how many people viewed true crime coverage. Evil did not announce itself. It sat politely and answered questions. The KNBC hostage incident. A gun behind the news. On August 19, 1987, KNBC Channel 4 aired a normal afternoon news segment. Reporter David Horwitz stood in the studio delivering a live report. Nothing appeared unusual. Then a man stepped behind him. Horwitz noticed something pressed against his back. He looked down and realized it was a gun. The man was Gary Stolman. He had gained access to the studio using personal connections. He handed Horwitz a document and demanded it be read on air. Horwitz remained calm. He spoke slowly and clearly. He explained the situation to viewers without causing panic. He followed instructions while trying to keep everyone safe. The station cut the broadcast after less than 30 seconds. Viewers were stunned. Inside the studio, the threat continued. Stolman believed he was still live on air. Horwitz read the manifesto to keep him calm. Eventually, Stolman lowered the weapon. Another anchor disarmed him. Security rushed in. No one was physically harmed. Later, it was revealed the gun was a BB gun and unloaded. That knowledge did nothing to reduce the fear of the moment. No one in the studio could have known. The moment remains one of the most frightening breaches of broadcast safety ever recorded. Live television showed how thin the line is between order and chaos. Tommy Cooper, When Laughter Masked Death. Tommy Cooper was known for turning failure into comedy. Audiences expected things to go wrong during his performances. That expectation would cost him his life. On April 15, 1984, Cooper performed live on BBC television. He walked on stage wearing his trademark cloak. He began his act. Then he stumbled and collapsed. The audience laughed. They believed it was part of the routine. Cooper often pretended to fail. His stillness looked like timing. His silence looked intentional. Minutes passed. He did not rise. Curtains were finally drawn. Music played to cover the confusion. The broadcast cut away. Behind the scenes, it became clear something was wrong. Cooper had suffered a massive medical emergency. Attempts to save him failed. He died shortly after. He died on stage during a live broadcast while the audience laughed. The moment remains deeply unsettling because of the misunderstanding. Performance hid reality. Habit replaced awareness. Live television captured death without anyone realizing it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.